So now we've got our hole in the top. We've got our hole and our little screw-in lid down at the bottom. Now I'm going to turn it around. This is what you're going to do when you go home. You're going to get a bag just like this. And in the bag, it's got everything that you need to work with. We'll put this on later. This is going to be hooked to your faucet handle. It goes in the bottom. It's threaded, so you can actually take that one little piece, the lid, and it'll actually screw right into that. Just as simple as can be. Is that thing running, kid? There we go. Almost as simple as can be. It goes in there, I promise you.
Things like that make a liar.
Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do here is one of the things that you want to be concerned with are mosquitoes. Anytime you have standing water, it's going to be breeding ground for mosquitoes. If you can deter them in any way, shape, or form, I advise that you do so. Bottom line is try to have this water used in just a few days if you can. Don't let it sit around full for an extended amount of time. 10 days is usually the life cycle. If you get eggs laid in here and then the larva, 10 days is probably what you're looking at. So try to use it within 10 days. To try to solve that problem, in each one of these little bags, we've got a small section of screen, about 7 by 7. You can take a rubber band and attach it, but this is so tight right here, you probably won't need to. And you will set that just down just like that and wiggle it. There. Now you have a really tight seal around the edge. Mosquitoes aren't going to be getting into that. It also serves as a little bit of a filter for when those little asphalt, if you have asphalt shingles, the little pieces that come off that you find on at the edge of your house, it'll keep those out of there too. If you wanted to take some caulking, you could. You don't have to. I'm kind of a neat freak when it comes to this. I couldn't stand this around the edge myself, so just a little razor, and I can clean this off real quick. What's that? You're already giving the list, huh?
No, David will. He's a neat freak too.
Oh, really? But I would clean this off just like so. And you'll have to replace this screen probably every season. You know, wear and tear. You know, over time it's going to try to break down. I believe it's just nylon screen that you get. And again, you can pick that up at Lowe's. You can get a fairly small roll for it's pretty inexpensive. And I think we've got that on the list also. So now I've got my downspout where I'm going in from the top. I'm now going to flip it back over. I'm going to go ahead and there we go.
Is the nylon screen better than like aluminum screen?
You could use the aluminum. It probably wouldn't hurt. I've always used the nylon just for the sake of simplicity. That's the first one I ever used. That's what I keep going back to buy. I've never seen anything bad about the aluminum. If that's your preference, I don't see why it would hurt.
If these degrade in a year, shouldn't we get something that's more green than nylon or aluminum?
Say again now?
Okay, if they degrade in a year, that means we're putting that aluminum and nylon in the ground. It's going in the water, it's going in the garden. So wouldn't it be better to get, is there some sort of screen that's more green?
I wouldn't know of anything more, I guess, green, or the term, as far as nylon. And when I meant, maybe I should have used a different term, but when I'm talking about breaking down, you're probably going to have nicks and cuts, you know, things like that. I don't think it's actually going to start to dissolve and you know, you're not going to have any issues as far as environmental degradation. So I've got that part screwed in. The next part, which is pretty important, you guys have probably seen this before if you've done any type of plumbing. Just a little white tape. Yeah, some plumbing tape. And I've got this is all on the list. I'm going to take this off here. You'll take that plumbing tape and just wrap it around once or twice. And what this is going to do, even though it's not under any pressure, or I guess I should reiterate that, it's not under much pressure. it's not pressurized. It's still going to help that water from kind of seeping through there and coming down those threads and leaking. So we'll put that on there. And from there, you can just screw it right into the female end, just like that. Makes it pretty simple. And you want, I would advise maybe a pair of pliers or whatever, maybe to go, once it gets hand tight, to go back in, maybe crank it one more evolution around, sorry. And then I'm going to, basically this will go back in. Just like this, just turn it. Yeah, I was jumping the gun. Then I'm going to put that on. Just like so. Pretty simple. Now that can come off anytime. These pieces, these PVC pieces, I've got the sizes on the list. If you'd ever have to replace them, or if you get a second barrel and you want to have the same exact type, I've got those on the list. You'll need to use the PVC cement. Again, this is at Lowe's. It's in the orange can. Just a few bucks for a whole jar, and you won't even use a quarter of it for that little bit of work that you need to do. This will be turned around, and they'll actually have to set it up on blocks. And on the plan, they talk about cinder blocks. I didn't have any cinder blocks to use in my demonstration. But nonetheless, I've got a couple of blocks. As long as you get it up, the higher you get up, you want to get it up above the ground so you can have a little bit of pressure to push that water out, basically. Get a little bit of pressure.
So you can put a bucket under it.
You could put a bucket, you could raise it up high enough to put a bucket under it. The one I have at the house, I do have it set up on cinder blocks, and it's enough for me, and it's right beside my, I've got a coneflower bed that I use for water in. So pretty simple.
If you leave it out in the winter and there's water in there and freezes, will it?
It's not good for it because, you know, expansion and contraction, you're probably going to weaken the barrel to some degree. I would advise, you know, when November, December around here usually, to detach it, you know, take it off, and then, you know, if you can rig your original setting back up, go ahead and put that one back up just for the winter. Then, you know, when we're going to have regular temperatures above freezing, go ahead and set it back up again. I made the mistake myself of leaving mine out all winter. I was just lazy, didn't take it in, left it out, and it runs the faucet. I guess because of the freeze and thaw action, it just constantly drips now. It's useless. And I haven't taken the time to replace it yet. So yeah, I would advise unhooking them for the winter.
You just put a small piece of hose run off of there into your drink system and leave the valve open.
You could.
So it's not that it's out in the winter. It's out in the winter with water in it. That makes it
out in the
worse.
winter with water in it, and that freeze and thaw cycle. Usually, it's going to be pretty hard on the hardware. Now, you can imagine when you have a rainstorm, these will fill up. On a decent rainstorm, they'll fill up in just a matter of minutes. Probably less than 5 minutes. It depends. Of course, it depends on how much rain you're getting and how the intensity. But they fill up rather quickly. So you don't want to, this one, I haven't drilled what you would call an overflow valve on the side yet. I do have it on this. The overflow is really important because if you don't, it's going to try to bubble all the way back up through the top. And I've seen some of these designs where they have a really little tiny overflow, and if you get a really heavy storm, that water is shooting out, you know, 5 or 6 feet from the top of this barrel. It's hilarious. Well, we'll move on. There's a joke there, but I'm not going to do it. I have a 10-year-old son at home, so that's what I hear. Anyway, but it'll shoot the water out the top. It's kind of, it can cause some erosion around the foundation of your house if you're not careful. So you really have to manage the energy of that water, I guess is what I'm going to say. Just like when you're talking about the creek over here. So you're going to see 100 different versions of this. Some people, and I haven't drilled these holes on these barrels because of that, because some folks will want it on this side, some folks will want it on this side, some folks might even want it on the front side. But I didn't drill any holes. I'm going to hang around if you want me to drill a hole somewhere so you don't have to go out and buy a hole saw. We'll do it. I'm going to be here all day anyway. So we can talk afterwards, and if you need me to drill a hole in a certain place, we will. But like I said, the contraption that we put on this one, all you have is it's called a male adapter, and I included one of these in the kit. And you will take a, I think it's a 2.5 inch or a 2 1/4 inch hole saw, just a smaller version of what we used to cut that hole in the top. And you will cut this on either side of the bucket for the overflow. And this fits in there perfectly. By perfectly, I mean tight. And it's going to take some effort to turn it in there. But once you get it started, and if you're strong enough to kind of twist it, it'll actually screw all the way in. And then you'll have a place where you'll actually put the rest of your plumbing in. And in this case, this is the finished product on this one over here. It's just a 90-degree elbow. I think they call that a street elbow. If any of you guys that are more familiar with plumbing, if you want to correct me, feel free to do so. Okay, 90-degree street elbow. And you can actually put a little bit of the cement on the end of this. And that will plunge right into here. But if you've ever done any of the plumbing work with this PVC and use that cement, you have to know exactly where you want it, because once that stuff touches, it's solid. It's there forever. It will not come loose. So we'll put that in here, and I would even advise not even using the cement on this side of it, because you might want to make some changes over time. And mine at home aren't done this way. So I like to have the option to take it loose if I want to. Then you'll have to cut, you'll have to measure, and this is just 2-inch PVC. You can cut it with a circular saw. I cut this with a jigsaw this morning. Pretty simple and straightforward. And again, if you want to go ahead and cement that up there, you can. I would hate to see this being the final product as far as the overflow is concerned, because that's going to, once that overflows, it's going to shoot that water straight down to the ground. You're going to have a gouged out hole right there. So I would advise another 90-degree. This is a long 90. It's basically just kind of it's not quite as sharp in there. And this would actually, you could cement this and point it any direction that you want to point it. Now some folks, they'll leave enough space underneath there for like a splash block. Some folks will have some decorative gravel. I would advise something a little larger, like a 2 or 3 inch, something that's going to take a lot of force to move. Pea gravel, you're going to have pea gravel all over the place when that thing overflows. It'll be shooting out into your lawn and stuff, and you'll have to be picking it or raking it all back up. It's going to be more trouble than it's worth. So I would advise some sort of large stone, a splash block, or something at the bottom to help cut down on the erosion that would create during the situation when it overflows. As far as detaching from your regular downspout, you can get something like this at Lowe's. This is an old dirty one that I had out back of the building at the house. But it's flexible, so you can turn it any which direction. You don't have to be so precise with your cuts and your measurement, which, hey, I'm all about that. So we can stick this on top, and then we would attach the downspout there, and that's your Rainbarrel system. It's pretty simple, low tech. Again, when this thing gets filled up, it's heavy. You know, water is about 9 pounds per gallon. So if you got 50 gallons of water, you're looking over 400 pounds sitting there. So you need to make sure that your base is really solid. It's not going to rock, especially if you got little ones running around that could knock something over. We've listed all the precautions that you want to take in the directions too, so make sure you do kind of follow along with that. Anybody have any questions at all? Yes, ma'am.
Can you connect several barrels in series if you get a large
Yes,
garden?
you can. Yeah, if you wanted to, you can modify this. Maybe. You could modify this by taking off, not having the overflow go down, but having a second barrel right here, and you connect them with another pipe and reverse the whole situation. Of course, you might want to have to have a little bit of a slope to that, so it'll, the water will run down. But yeah, there's a lot of folks that do that, that take the approach that way.